Okay, so we have decided, we just got back from social media marketing world. And to all you people who are watching this, that means that our brains are super saturated with amazing social media content. We highly recommend it. We're already signed up for next year. You should go check it out. However, one thing that I know about me, I do not think this about Angelyn, is we take a spiral full of notes and then it just lives in the notes on the floor in a bag somewhere and we never revisit it. So what we've decided to do is record these YouTube videos so that we can impart not only what we learned, but our insight and wisdom as it pertains to each of the pieces of notes that we find important. So, without further ado, I think Angelyn is going to tell you a little bit about what she does for Next Chapter Social, and then I will tell you a little bit about what I do.
Sure. On my side of the business, I manage personal brands and businesses. So I work with a lot of random type. I'm a little industry agnostic, but everything from a pickleball facility to doctors to spray tan artists and churches. I have a lot of different kinds of businesses, but they often need a pretty good depth of services. So sometimes it's YouTube, sometimes it's blogging or emails, and then of course there's social media content. So that's what I do on my side of the business. In Brooklyn?
Yes. Okay. So she does a lot of work and a lot of different people. I manage influencers, digital creators, affiliate marketing. And what I do is a little bit more niche, but there's also the same amount of depth. There's just a lot of in real time posting because the creators that I manage are all fashion industry, beauty, makeup, that kind of thing, but mainly fashion. And what I find on my end is I always say our content moves at the speed of light because if
Mhm.
something sells out or goes on sale, then we are changing our whole plan for the day. So my side of the business is significantly different, but at the end of the day, we both manage the content for these types of users online. And we both got very different insights from what we learned at social media marketing world, but it was applicable to both. And our hair's on fire with excitement on what we can do and how we're going to grow for not only our own business, but our creators and personal brands and businesses into the future.
Yeah, let's jump in. I mean, one of the favorite workshops we went to was with Brock Johnson, who you may or may not have heard of online. He did a class called Grow More and Work Less on Instagram. And it was very relevant to what we do. And there were several little takeaways. So, thought we would dive deep into our notes from this class and how we're going to implement for both sides of our business.
Yes, I love Brock Johnson. I don't know about you, not you, Angelyn, but the people out there. But if you don't follow him, you definitely have to follow Brock Johnson. He is funny, he is relevant, and everything that he says pretty much speaks to me. And he's one of my most saved creators online for, ooh, I got to do that, or I got to come back to that. So he was one that we both picked because we didn't always pick the same class. So,
Right.
do you want to start off with your first note that you would like to?
Yeah. Let's talk about 3 steps to growing on Instagram. And he loves to use, what do you call them? Where you something with the
Acronym.
letter acronyms. So
Uh-huh.
this was his NAP method. So his NAP it stands for in niche down. He said there was this interesting meta report that came out recently about people following fewer people. Okay, so audiences following less users on Instagram. They're being more stingy, if you will, about who they're following and where they're giving their attention to. So, just the way the algorithms work these days, follower count is a little bit less important because you want your views to be shown to non followers anyway to help you grow. But I guess we all want to see that conversion to followers, right? So, how you do that really is to niche down and make sure that the portal that they find you on Instagram is going to be what the rest of your content also mirrors.
And I want to just piggyback on my notes regarding that particular topic. Followers does not equal revenue. So the more followers you have doesn't mean the more revenue you'll have. It's actually that niching down, and I call it the reduced balsamic vinegar glaze. It's not just the liquid balsamic, it's the best stuff, right? And
Right.
so the more niche your audience, the higher the conversion rate. So
Hmm.
just because your followers aren't growing, even if your followers are declining, that means your audience is self-regulating and the people that are there are picking up everything that you're laying down. And I went to a keynote a long time ago at Dallas Digital Marketing World, and Mark Cuban said he'd rather you have 40 followers that are picking up everything you're laying down than 4,000 that aren't. And that speaks to this niching down that we heard just this past week.
That's so true. And then A in NAP stands for attention grabbing profile. So this is a good reminder, if it's been a while since you've actually looked at your bio and your profile, to go update it. I just did a Claude audit this weekend on one of our accounts, and it was like, this needs a lot of work. Oh my gosh. And we're the experts, right? So it's interesting how we're using AI as a tool with a fresh set of eyes, if you will. And our profile needed a little bit of updating. So it's a good time to go in and make sure that your profile is really speaking to your audience, not just to who we are, but who are we serving. So anything else to add on profile?
No, but I will tell you that's the thing that people pay attention to the least. They set it and forget it and then walk away. And then
Absolutely.
12 years later, it still says that they're coffee loving Jesus
Dog
following.
mom. Oh, we've joked about
Nobody's
that for
searching
years.
that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, and P stands for post a lot of good posts. Pretty simple. The more you post, the faster you're going to grow. Again, it gives you more reps, you're trying more, you have lots more data, and the algorithm gets to show you to a lot more times. So post a lot of good posts. That doesn't mean post some crappy posts. That doesn't mean you have to post great posts. It means that you have to post a lot of good posts.
Mhm. Yes,
So
and something he said right before nap that I have highlighted right before nap. So obviously he had to have said it before that, right? He started out the presentation by talking about upcycling content. But we're going to get more into that in a little bit. But the one statistic that he said was for his clients, he saw 178% increase in engagement just by reposting great posts. So we have to post a lot of good posts in order to have the data to find out which ones are great. Because your good posts, there's going to be ones that perform the least. They were still good to begin with, but they're still the worst when you look back at the month and you're like, okay, that good post is actually my worst good post. But then you can find your greatest good post. And he said that he increased the engagement on his client's account by 178% just by having them post a lot of good posts and then reposting the really great ones.
So let's go ahead and talk about it since we've started it. Upcycling means what he does is post every 90 days. So he'll schedule it for today, and then he'll look out 90 days and he'll schedule that one again. And then maybe even again. The reason that you do that is so that you can actually work less and have more content. So the good things, you can either go back and assess, like Brooklyn was saying, where you are judging by the ones that performed well and you're rescheduling those, or you can just go ahead and say, this one's going to be great. It's good content that I know I want to have out. So I'm going to schedule it today and I'm going to schedule it for 90 days from now. You could do either way. I know I can definitely use this to create more content for my clients. But what about you, Brooklyn? Could you use this for your creators? Because I know it's a little different.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, two things. What I just remembered that isn't written down in our notes is our conversation with him afterwards about how he saved and organized and all of that. So, bookmark that. So, I actually tested this just the other day. We've only been home since Friday. Let me remind you that I manage fashion influencers and the content moves at the speed of light. So, very little of our content is reusable 90 days later because that shirt might not be in season anymore because it's been 3 months. Or It's not an evergreen product. If you go to Anthropologie right now and you type in Colette or the Somerset dress, those come back every single year. I know that just because I'm in it all the time, but those come back over and over again. And there's different patterns, length of the sleeves, all of that, different colors of the jeans. So if I post a Colette right now jean, a reel from Angela with the Colette jeans, I can post that in 90 days. And what we did was we found a post that went viral-ish for her. She was wearing a white button down that is absolutely evergreen to the brand of that shirt. We reposted it and it went viral again. She made $2,000 in commission off of that post from 3 weeks ago. It was, by the way, it was just 3 weeks ago. We reposted it again on Friday and she made another $2,000.
Amazing.
So,
Amazing.
and we didn't do anything. We didn't even change the title or the caption. We just freaking reposted it. And we're like, $4,000 done. So easy.
Yeah. And what we did ask him afterwards was, how do you organize this, or how do you, because he said save your reels in a Google Drive folder or you're on your camera roll. That would be really difficult for me because I manage so many clients to have their reels saved on our iPhone data can only hold so much. But you can put it in a Google Drive folder. Or here's the other thing I was thinking even afterwards, which is the biggest duh. When you use a scheduler like we do with Metricool, the post is in there. I can go back to any of them and just hit go back to the post and hit duplicate and post it again because it's already in there, just like it was the original time. So there's another plug for using a scheduler when you're creating your content.
Yeah. And but he had suggested Dropbox, which I don't use. I don't
Mm.
use Dropbox. We use
It's Google Drive.
Google Drive. Another idea that because we learned about AI marketing world was inside a social media marketing world, so we learned all this AI stuff. I used Claude to come up with a standard operating procedure for naming folders. And what
Hmm.
I think would be really great for us, at least on my end, is to use a categorizing type of title. So, is this evergreen? Can this be used? Is this done, one and done? Does it go in an archive folder? If something like the Colette pant or the Somerset dress can be used again, then that needs to be nested into an archive folder that's evergreen that can be reused so that
Hmm.
when you're in a pinch and you need more content and my creator's out of town and hasn't recorded and their folders low on content, I can always go back to that
Yes.
evergreen folder and pull out.
Yeah.
So that's something that's going to be a game changer for the team on my end for being able to have an archive of usable content when our folder is low.
Absolutely. And a lot of it for me is when we're talking about AFib in cardiology, well, we're educating on that. I can absolutely schedule that in another 90 days from now. And in theory, create him more content because I'm reusing old posts again, but I'm also still creating him at least 10 new posts a month. So I'm excited to experiment with some of my health professionals because their content is so evergreen, right? It's going to be exciting. So the other thing that he said about that particular thing is reschedule, recreate. So the recreate was the other aspect of that. So to take a concept, maybe something that you've talked about, and I already do this all the time, and I'm sure you do too. If there's something that was a great topic where we recorded a face to camera reel, one of my clients, I have her talking about a peptide or something. And then I'll take that exact same content and have AI rewrite that as a carousel for me. So we're using that same content in two different delivery methods. But then you could go ahead and ask it to give you a third version of that and now do B-roll with a hook on the screen and then a caption kind of explaining the same way. So it's redoing the same content message in different delivery methods. And then
Yeah.
not to say you couldn't take that same thing if it did performed really well and talk about it again in a different way, a little bit different way. But it's
Yeah.
really smart. You shouldn't be spread so thin. It's like you want to repeat yourself over and over.
We were in classes from 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. That's when the last one ended. So we are going to do many more of these. But he said reuse, recreate, and redone. Those were his three words. I don't know the difference between recreate and redone, but I know that he called the body of the content that changed. We call that format. So many presenters talked about pillars and buckets and how you identify what those are that we have to continuously talk about.
Yes.
So does that apply to repeating our message? I always get confused on the difference between pillars and buckets and
It's the
content.
same thing. It's the two different
Okay.
words for the exact same thing. We've always called them buckets in our
Yeah.
business. Something that I do with my clients all the time. We only have four things that we talk about over and over. And sometimes my clients be like, didn't we talk about this last month? And I said, yeah, we sure did. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yes, we're repeating
We have
ourselves.
to.
You've got to be known for something. The more you repeat about this thing, the more the algorithm knows where to deliver your content, who to deliver it to, because that person's going through perimenopause. And if you're talking about perimenopause and sleep, guess what? You're going to get really good in that pool of perimenopausal women who need that answer. So the more you're talking about the same things over and over again, the more your account's going to grow. But at the same time, the more you're going to find the people who need you.
And he specifically gave an example about snowboarding. He kept talking about snowboarding. So I did a deep dive. I'm like, oh, okay, he really likes snowboarding. But if you talk about a snowboarding trick and how to do it, and somebody finds it and they're like, wow, that was really good. And then they click off to your profile and they see a bunch of social media help and your dog and this, and there's nothing to binge watch about snowboarding, then they don't give you the follow. People are stingy with following now.
That goes down to the niche down. That's why you've got to be very consistent in the type of content you're posting. Okay, so let's talk about how we said the P in NAP was to post a lot of good posts. How do you make a lot of good posts? Like, how does that happen? And he did give us some tips on that. Number one is stop trying to be perfect.
Yes, he actually said, which I love, and I have it written down, feck perfection. And then he said, can I say that? And I was like, you can absolutely say that to me. So, anyways, feck perfection, perfection. And he said, reduce the time from idea to execution. Oh my gosh, that right there is so me. Angelyn can attest to this because if I have an idea, damn it, I'm recording it right that second. Oh, I gotta get my phone out. Okay, does my hair look okay? Let me put a filter on and just go. I don't think about it. And typically that's when my best posts happen, both on my personal account or whatever sad attempt I've done for our business account because the plumber has no working toilets. So we pay attention to everybody else's account but ours until I have a great idea. So, anyways, affect perfection, reduce the time from idea to execution. The more time you take to mull over it or compare it or try to filter it through somebody else's attempt at the same topic, the less you are you, the more
Mhm.
diluted that content becomes, and the more it sounds like everyone else.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then number two, how to make a lot of good posts was to use a calendar and a scheduling tool. We live and die by our scheduling calendar. Again, this is going to help you be able to recycle some of these posts, but also to plan it out. So yesterday, I spent about 3 hours working on our in for Next Chapter Social, our business content calendar for the whole month. But you know what? Now it's pretty easy. There's only a couple of videos that we're waiting on to fill in the holes, and we're good for the whole month. So using that calendar is important. Duplicate as much as you can 90 days from now. Number three is use AI as a tool. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you can use AI to help, and I know we'll get into this in our next YouTube that we're going to talk a little bit about, but when you're using AI to help you ideate or compare what other people in your industry are doing and say, what are they doing well? What am I not doing well? What can I glean from other accounts to help my account grow? You can use AI as a really valuable tool to help you create content. Now that you cannot use AI to write your hooks. I will say that. It doesn't usually work very well, but you can definitely use AI as a tool to help you come up with ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. And you alluded to our next topic of both our next YouTube will be about this creator I'm about to mention, but specifically about the hooks because Brock said that the hooks need or the ones that he's found are a sweet spot for a good post, is 5 to 12 words long. And he said they need to be understood by a drunk grandma. And he also, I love this. If it bleeds, it leads. Negative words. Don't, stop, avoid, cancel. And I can't
Hmm.
even read what this last one was. But
Visual and audio hooks. Visual and
yes.
audio.
Oh, I can't. There was another word after cancel, but yes, visual and audio hooks. So the 5 to 12 words, the 12 tracks, but Shannon McKinstry, who was also a speaker, and we'll do our next YouTube about her, her hooks that were performing so well were like freaking paragraphs on the screen.
Hmm.
So we'll unpack that in the next episode. But Brock says 5 to 12 words understood by a drunk grandma and use negative words. That
Yeah.
is a really good formula.
Really good. Really good. And then the last thing, so again, number one was stop trying to be perfect. Number two, calendar and scheduling tools. Number three, use AI to help you with ideas. And number four is upcycle, which means reuse the same posts. Okay. So that's it. That's it. Those are some really helpful tools to working a little bit less hard and creating more on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
So
think it applies to all kinds of businesses and creators, and all of that is very applicable across both kind of categories, don't you think?
yeah, absolutely. And remember, 178% engagement increase just by reposting great posts
Yeah.
from 90 days ago. I did it. It worked. And I can't wait for you and all those 4 million client counts that you have to be able to repost their great stuff and
Yeah,
then have these little surprises in your future on the calendar. You're like, oh my gosh, we already have one done. It's going to feel so good.
it will. It will. So, okay, we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.